And we're back with another exciting edition of the Weekly AMA. I am your host, Dan Friedman, and with me we have none other than Joe the Armeanio. Say hi to everybody, Joe.
Good joining, everybody.
Yeah, and you know, we're going with the hats today. You know, Joe, of course, is promoting the ecosystem, and I'm just kind of like shilling my own company here. But what are you gonna do? You know, that's I don't have a nice, cool Ergo hat. Okay, I have my Zengate hat. I just wanted to do like all hats, all hats, anything AHA today. So yeah, that's what happened. Anyway, so yeah. So again, this last week, basically we've been huddling together. Of course, the work continues with with basically spreading out our network, talking to funds, as I explained before, and just to kind of really trying to push the ecosystem into a new level where we can start bringing a lot of commercially viable products and interest in the ecosystem from funds and various different investors that would be. That are looking for something cool like Ergo. However, a very exciting thing is this catalyst proposal that we've been actually working on together. Again, this is the Rosenbridge catalyst proposal. This is going to be an amazing new way for Cardano stake pool operators to create income for themselves. So it's really exciting. We're going to share details, more details, I guess, Joe, and what just a little bit, right? In a few days, we're gonna give them more details about it. Yeah, but all in all, this should give us a really, really cool boost for Rosen and for the ecosystem as well. It's very exciting to be kind of at the final. Almost like at the finish line, right? Because we had this proposal for a while. We were waiting for Fund 10. And finally it's time. It's go time. So that's just been really kind of our main focus. And we're hoping to, like I said, be able to kind of give you all the details in the next few days. We will. And always looking for feedback from the community. However, I think this will be really, really cool for the community, and the community is going to really like what we got going on for you guys. So, Joe, what's been going on in your world except for beach weather at 60 degrees?
Yeah, we're preparing for the Ergoversary. We've got a lot of content lined up for this weekend. Good stuff. Community is really, developed in the last year. So there's, a couple surprises there to highlight. That are coming. A couple of nice videos from the Ergo Foundation, as well as different projects in the community members. We're also going to have kind of a community chat tomorrow. So those of you that are around, please hop in, participate. Hopefully we can get that formatted in a nice way that people that kind of miss it can tune in. I know this weekend in the U.S. is 4th of July, which, to be honest, I don't really care about, but it's a food holiday, right? And the food holidays are the best ones. So hopefully everybody's going to have some nice food, nice time with your Ergo event. I know I'm looking forward to it. We had a good weekly update this week. As usual, we'll try to get the video out by Sunday. Hopefully those of you that are tuning in can catch that. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of content and should be available on YouTube. So something that, time is limited. You have the ability to kind of absorb slowly. And when you get into the technical videos, sometimes it's really nice to be able to rewatch it. So I'm hoping everybody out there is looking forward to that. I know I am.
I am as well. And, Joe, you're in America, and I guess you don't care too much for celebrating the 4th of July. However, well, you like the food, right? But I go all out for the 4th, okay? I'm going to be flying the American flag blasting Credence and barbecuing the shit out of barbecue. And of course, confusing the shit out of my neighbors because they'll have no idea what's going on. Because, 4th of July, what's up? What's, they don't know. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I do this every year. Confuse the shit out of my neighbors on the 4th of July. They'll wonder why is there so many, drunken barbecuing foreigners flying a giant American flag in the middle of Japan. But it's to each their own. And to me, this is fun. That's the kind of person I am. So let's see. So how about we get to some questions, Joe? What do you think?
Yeah, that's why I'm here. Talk to the community. So feel free to ask anybody out there.
Well, you're here to talk to your camera, which will then be visible to the community, which will then be asking you questions, which will then be, I'll be saying back to you, which will then be answered to the community. Yeah.
I want to apologize for the little audio issue, everybody. We've been upgrading our little broadcasting setup to where I think we're going Twitch, Telegram. What were the other ones?
Yeah, so is the voice of Andy just in my head, or is it really happening?
No, it's in your head. Nobody else can hear.
It's messed up. How did you know what he was saying, though? Are you guys screwing with me? Anyway, we're broadcasting live all over the interwebs. Yeah, I got their Twitching and what else did he say? Twitch and what?
Telegram, Twitter, I think. It's all over the place. Hopefully next time we can get the audio.
Everywhere. Yeah. So let's get to our first question here from FC. And so FC asks, can someone explain how many nodes, he means nodes, would be helpful for the project? I'd like to spin up several in the coming months. I've noted it's about 430 currently. Is there an optimal number? So, Joe, since you're someone, can you explain this?
Sure. I think that's a well-intentioned question, but it's the wrong question, right? I think the best question you can say is how many nodes are helpful for you to have the best assumptions as a user, right? And, one thing that is pretty cool in the Ergo ecosystem is the ability to run your own full node and then run like clients that are connected to that node, right? When you're talking about distributed assumptions, right? Sometimes, I don't know, you get into this funny question, and I'm going to make fun of Binance Smart Chain, right? There's 21 different validators or something like that.
And they're all CZ.
And they're all CZ, right? So it's not necessarily the amount of nodes in the network. It's the distribution. And that's actually somewhat difficult to track, right? Because if I want to spin up a bunch of nodes in a local environment, there's the capacity to do that, right? And so, I know there's been questions in the crypto space, hey, can we incentivize running a node, right? And that's actually somewhat dangerous because then it puts an actor like me that's like, hey, I'm just going to spin up a bunch of nodes in a local environment and kind of farm the hell out of whatever that incentive is. It's shifting from like best practices for the end user to something that is potentially gameable. So, it's not so much the number itself, it's the distribution. And then we get into the question, okay, how do you make that barrier of entry as easy as possible? I think that one video even coming, I hear, well, it's not Saturgo himself, but or Adberg himself, but Saturgo Wallet has been really great in terms of moving us from, spinning up a jar to having an executable program for the node. So I would recommend everybody out there think locally, right? That's kind of the point of a decentralized network, and say, okay, well, as the local host user, what are the best assumptions you can have for yourself? and then certainly consider running a node, consider connecting perhaps a like client to that node. And we're actually moving into an era where like NepoPal ultralight wallets are going to be coming out, and there's still going to be a need to run a full node, right? So those of you that are interested in running a node, I think that's great. But if you run 100 nodes, right, it's still like one user in the back end. So it doesn't really promote decentralization. It's a nice thought, but it's not just about the number. And that's really important to understand, because there are, you could say, okay, well, if Binance Smart Chain decided to have 1,000 validators on their CZ, there's no difference, like practically. It's sexier, right?
It sounds nice. It sounds nice,
And that's always a question that we have to ask in this space. Is it's not just about the number, it's about what the number means, right? So there could be potentially multiple networks that say, hey, we have X amount of validators, and how do you know they're not like 3 guys? It's kind of an open question, right? So in my opinion, the real question to ask is, how do you lower that barrier of entry so that it's easy to participate, and then we can have the assumption that it's multiple parties.
Yeah. We're going to be running a node for Palmyra, but that's just because we need a node, not because we particularly think that it's going to add to decentralization. But we're going to need to have it to make things run much smoother. And so we actually have a follow-up question here. So, hey guys, while on nodes, can you talk about how the new developments on index nodes may allow for the replacement for the need to run Explorer on top of it?
Sure. So I guess practically the question is going to be how the application itself is designed, right? That you're interacting with. But, it's true that when you talk about scalability, everybody likes to talk about TPS, the chain goes fast, right? And that's all great. It's kind of really popular, 2018, 2019, right? But the question is, you have all this data, and you need to continually index that data and parse it, call the chain. And when you have a data set that's growing, and usually the higher the TPS, the higher that data set is expanding, that you have to call, sift through in order to basically organize the chain, right? And that's a really functional aspect of scalability that everybody forgets about, all of the infrastructure that sits around the chain and calls the chain, right? And it's actually one of the really neat things about storage rent is that, the functional UTXO set on Ergo will kind of be capped at 4 years, right? Either the user moved their funds within the last 4 years, or, they got charged rent. So you can look at within that last 4-year period, and all the data that you're really going to need to know the current state of the UTXO set is right there. Versus if you have something, I have no idea how big Ethereum's full state is at the moment, but imagine what it's going to be in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years. And, over time, it becomes harder, basically harder for, off-chain infrastructure to call all of that. And that leads to centralization. So actually having the node be able to basically, having indexing functionality is really huge, because if you spin up a node that way and applications are designed to support that, you're basically running infrastructure on top of your node that's calling the chain. And so you go back to the local host, right? It's one thing that everybody loves to talk about decentralization, but that requires you being the local host. It requires you running infrastructure if you actually want to participate in decentralization, right? Otherwise, we get into this scenario where, everybody's basically calling the same servers, which isn't ideal.
Yeah. So, okay, we have another actually interesting question here. Is block space quality really important? When the future give as many processing, more storage, more AI, etc.?
It depends where you're talking. I think that certainly if you look at like the newest hardware out there that's accessible to data centers and whatnot, it's not a problem. But we're talking, how do you create a decentralized network that basically empowers the end user, and not just the end user in developed countries, but the end user globally, right? There's a certain gap there where, certain areas of the world, somebody might be running a phone that's, 5 versions, let's say behind what everybody's running out to buy the new shiny thing here. So I think it's important to scale it to say, what's your purpose? Certainly if we're going to try to build Solana, who cares, right? We can definitely, push things and run the newest, latest, greatest tech, have a huge barrier to entry, and it doesn't matter because there's an expectation that very few are going to actually run infrastructure. But if the purpose of the design is to say, okay, well, how can we lower that barrier of entry to where, it's feasible for, pretty much anyone, anywhere in the world that's running, hardware that's, manufactured in like the last decade. I think that it's a different assumption, different plan. So I do think that it's actually important if that's your purpose. And in many cases, it's just not, right? There's a lot of people that love to have a light wallet on their phone that are basically all pinging the same server, and then they say rah decentralization.
Yep. Yep, exactly. So here's a question that we kind of, get from time to time. And so I thought maybe I'll bring it up again here. Are there any marketing plans this year to promote Ergo? Okay. So first, let's think about what does promoting means? Who are we promoting it to? What is our end goal? How much are you willing to? How many ecosystem funds are you willing to spend on this quote unquote promotion? So first of all, who would be attracted to Ergo? Okay, tech people, right? Developers. The technology speaks for itself. We're already attracting a lot, more and more developers each and every day, each and every week. We got more and more projects building. Again, I'm building my project on Ergo, something that I wouldn't have done a couple of years ago. So the promoting Ergo as far as getting devs on board is really marketing to devs is really not easy, because a lot of devs, especially good devs, have their own kind of worlds, right, that they like to have information come into, and they don't like to be marketed to, and you can see some of the backlash that we've got in the Cardano community had with Redix. I'm not making any statements about actually what Redix is and whatever the qualities, the opportunities are, but just to show that some people, because it just kind of came in, right? To some people felt it was kind of out of nowhere, right? Came in, and not only do you see ecosystem people that have been around for a while just kind of all of a sudden seemingly all of a sudden jump into it. you also see these, targeted ads, right? And people started kind of saying, why are we seeing all these ads all of a sudden, right? And it's, I think it actually had a more the actual ads had a more negative effect than they would have, and then a positive effect on the ecosystem, because the people that already were interested in this in this blockchain, they're already doing stuff there, right? New people, a lot of them got turned off by that kind of advertising. What they did get turned on by is word to mouth from other developers saying, I'm building it on this, and I'm building what I'm building on this because of A, B, C, D. And really, that's how the developer community works, right? At least from my experience. Now, who else do you market to? Degens, NFTs. Okay, I mean, we already got that going on, but NFTs are, difficult right now. It's a bear market. Who else? I mean, who else would be in there? So my belief is that the best marketing you can have for any kind of blockchain ecosystem is a killer app that will pull the average user into this ecosystem without them really knowing that they're utilizing this particular blockchain, because not everybody needs to know what's under the hood. And I keep saying this, and I will keep saying this. If we create a platform that is mainstream viable, that pulls in, say, 1 million users, right? Would you really care if these 1 million users were like Ergo experts or really Ergonauts? Would you care, or would you be just happy with them using Ergo to transact and do business on? Right? To me, is the latter, right? To me, of course you want to grow the Ergonaut community, but to me, really, if you bring those types of users with these killer dApps onto the platform, just to utilize the platform just because it's part of the killer dApp and they love the killer dApp, that is how that is the best way to market the ecosystem, because then there's going to be more traffic, there's going to be more volume going through the ecosystem, there's going to be organic, right? Because you can't buy a community. You can't. You can't buy organic growth. There have been, the various different blockchains out there that had, millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars poured into them, like Aptos, like a couple of other ones, Sui or whatever it was called. But, the ecosystems are inorganic. So it's just kind of like, okay, I mean, yeah, it's got a big market cap, and what? And what is different besides the amount of money that's been poured into the ecosystem? What is different between them and the next guy on the coin market cap list? I can tell you what the difference is between them and Ergo, but that's because our ecosystem has been growing organically. And essentially, in the blockchain ecosystem, I believe that organic marketing, which is what we're doing already, is the best type of marketing. It doesn't give immediate results a lot of times, but it is sort of like a critical mass. You build it up and build it up and build it up. And once it reaches that critical mass, it just spills over and creates this big boom that organically pulls in new people, but they're real people. They're not bullshit bots that are just there to boost your, engagement numbers and to make it look like you're popular. And then you have an account, say on social media, like a Twitter account for some, for some blockchain that's got like 500,000 followers on it, but they get like 20 likes per post because they're fake. So, yeah, I mean, that's really what I think about it. I know this is not something that some people want to hear. People want to hear that, yes, the Ergo Foundation is going to put in like $1 million into marketing, right? Or $500,000 into marketing. We're going to go market it. There's going to see Ergo on billboards and buses and in airports and this and that. And then what, though, right? What is the call to action? You promote the ecosystem. Okay, so Ergo, they're going to see Ergo. But what is the call to action for the average person? And that there lies the dilemma. There isn't much of a call to action for the average person just to promote Ergo, unless there's a killer dApp or killer dApps for them to utilize on Ergo. And then it doesn't really matter if they really know Ergo or not. They just know the dApp that came out of the Ergo ecosystem, or the platform that came out of the Ergo ecosystem. That's just that. I mean, that's what I think about this. Well, what are your thoughts, Joe?
Yeah, I tend to agree that probably the most important marketing is functionality on the application level. I mean, I don't know. What are we going to do? Hire Matt Damon. Let's get some nice.
Matt Damon.
The question that we have to ask is like long-term value, right? And I do think that the best marketing is generally the market. Like that's just the case in our industry. You can have some random coin that will go up and it gets attention. But the real question then is, okay, is that a sign of like voting, where it's just like a popularity thing that lasts a week and then, I don't know, people get tattoos on their head and then a week later everybody forgets about it? Or is it something that actually has like substantial use and value to the end user, right? I'll use the example of like, if we look at Ethereum back in the day, looking at Uniswap, right? I think that application did more for the, adoption, use, growth of Ethereum than really anything that the Ethereum Foundation did, because it gave users the opportunity to kind of explore and expand, some basic DeFi primitives, which has been an evolving thing. Now, it is true that one unique aspect in Ergo and extended UTXO is this ability to have local contracts in DeFi rather than using global. And I actually think it'll be really interesting to see how the two models, where you have more like let's say a global lending contract or a global DEX contract, and then P2P type contracts, and watching the arbitrage and market opportunities that creates. That'll be interesting long term. It's interesting to be in the crypto space because there's always like this narrative, right? And we can make fun of the memes that Bitcoin, the original meme coin in many ways, has come up with over the years, where it's like every 6 months the dominant narrative rebrands, and then does it really go anywhere? Does it ever really accomplish like the stated mission, or is it one of those things that now it's the ETFs, and then I guess like a year ago it was separate money from the state, and it's interesting to watch how that type of market branding shifts in crypto, and from my perspective, right, gets tiring. Like I imagine it's one of those things where you can make a lot of noise. That's great, it'll get people excited, but what do you deliver at the end of the day? What do you deliver? That's really where we need to focus. And I think that as applications develop and deliver, on their vision, their goals, that's going to build utility. Utility will build value.
Yep. Yeah. That's exactly the approach that we're taking in Zengate. Utility builds value, not name recognition of a blockchain, not numbers go up. It's utility. That's why we always lead with utility. We, in fact, actually had a conversation today with some colleagues that came to visit us at the office, just to kind of saying that they were talking to a couple of people on their end, and they said, well, people don't really know Ergo or Cardano. And I said, well, why were you talking about what blockchain is running the traceability and tokenization protocol? Were they asking those questions, or were they asking just what is the platform doing? How does it make the producers' lives easier and the buyers' lives easier, and why would they use it? Because that's the way you market these things. You don't market them, oh well, I'm using this blockchain and not that blockchain. Not to the mainstream user, right? They don't need to know what's under the hood unless they want to know, and most of the times they don't want to know. I mean, how many times have you cared what networks your credit card runs on when you scan it at the store to buy something, right? What networks is it bridging with? What payment rails is it utilizing, and how is it getting to the bank, and how arbitrages work, and all this stuff, So here's actually a good question from Rico Staines. So when you guys approach organizations, companies with different blockchain services like Zengate and Palmyra, what questions are they asking about Ergo? So since Zengate is my company, I'll tell you what questions did I ask about Ergo. Is the tech solid? And is the tech business viable? Right? For myself, for me, it is business viable because it's very straightforward design on how I can utilize NFTs, because we're using NFTs in a Winter protocol that is being built out by Luca to tokenize and trace the products, the commodities that are being listed on Palmyra. We picked it because it is good technology, it is solid technology, and it is cheap. It's cheap to mint an NFT on Ergo. It's some people think, oh, it's cheap. Is that really a good reason? Hell yeah, that's a good reason. Hell yeah, that's a good reason. For me, thinking that if I have, say, 1 million units, right? So I have 1 million units of a commodity being listed on Palmyra. Is it easier for me to sell a concept where 1 million units will cost somebody $1 million to tokenize and track and trace? Or is it easier for me to sell them the concept that $10,000 is going to be required to track and trace and tokenize 1 million units, which is basically what it would cost with Ergo right now because of the minting. Well, the transaction fee required to mint an NFT. So, that's the bottom line. It's viability, and it's I want to say solidity, but how solid the tech is, right? I love the tech, right? It's easy to develop on. It's easy to do what I want it to do. And the rest is just business. And this is what other companies are going to be asking. How easy it is to build on your network, and how much does it cost to build on your network? And how robust can the build be on your network? And if you answer all three in the positive for the businesses looking to utilize your blockchain, utilize Ergo, then they're going to utilize Ergo because it only makes sense. So that's it in a nutshell there. All right, let's go to another question here. Okay, Joe, what other than Ergo, what are your favorite chains and why?
Oh, I've answered this before. I would say, other than Ergo, my favorite chains that have always been privacy-oriented chains. I think that's probably, broadly, probably one of the most important technological battles in front of us as humanity. This idea of user privacy. I love the fact that when you have solid privacy communities, you know where they're at, right? That they tend to be very, let's say, devoted to that cause, and it's predictable. They don't necessarily, shift with whatever way the wind blows. And there's a lot of that, in this industry, where projects will rebrand based on what's popular. Suddenly, it goes from the metaverse to now to AI to this and that. And when you get into privacy advocates, usually they're very first principle oriented. They tend to be pretty meticulous, and you just know where they're at. And I appreciate that consistency. So I would have to say that, you could look at some of the leading privacy chains. I would say, Monero's pretty great. Fiero's great. There's a lot of interesting research around, zero knowledge proofs and how that could potentially increase user privacy. So I think that aside from like the programmability aspect that Ergo represents, and I guess to some other chains as well, I tend to think privacy is a critically important topic that is all too often ignored in this space, and it's not popular, right? That's the thing that I guess people need to kind of recognize is that you could look at an example what's happening in Europe right now with different privacy coins, potentially being delisted and then some of them being relisted, and I guess the better ones staying off the market. I kind of like the Monero community's attitude where, if they get delisted, they're kind of like, well, it's better than being captured, right? So that tends to be where I fall in terms of other chains, other projects, what I find interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I am the same. I like Monero. I like what they're doing. I mean, there are a few others. I do like what Algorand is doing. Another really good blockchain, I think. I mean, of course, there's some, nobody's perfect, but they're doing a lot of cool stuff. In general, it just kind of feasibility and viability, and really, do they check off the first principles, right? Because I am very much about that. So they do. I am for them. And of course Cardano, of course, but that goes without saying. Okay. So we got a question here from High Quality Ergo. Hey, Uncle Dan and Joe, have you checked out the new token dashboard? Heard it have so many features and stats. Sorry for the shill. I have not. Did you, Joe?
Yeah, drop a link to ErgCube. It's a great community project. A lot of new features, stats, tracking loans, looking at projects. It's great to have that type of media aggregator out there for the ecosystem, where somebody can kind of get a high level view of the ecosystem. I know that, recently there was a project that, released like their intentions of building on Ergo, Crux Finance, which is gonna, I don't know, you kind of get into this fragmentation, right? You have all these different projects building in different areas, and for the end user, projects like ErgCube, and something like what Crux is potentially working to do, that kind of aggregates that, pulls it all into one environment, and gives people kind of the eagle eye overview of the ecosystem, can be extremely valuable. I know myself, I get lost in Discord and Telegram channel overload and just buried in a lot of different things. So having that single, let's say, places you can go to get a broader update or overview or collect data on the ecosystem is really valuable. So appreciate your work. New token dashboard, everybody check it out. I still don't see a link in the chat, but
yeah, well, I mean, High Quality Ergo, come on, man. We gave you a plug. Now let's go with the link. All right. You have like 15 minutes. All right. So drop it in the chat so that everybody can check it out. All right, let's move to the next question. Another one from Mr. Rico. Would Zengate ever invite VC money into their development? Hypothetically, if so, would Ergo follow suit? Okay, so VC has this like negative connotation to it because of all the predatory VCs out there and all the VC coins that are basically just giant pump and dumps. That really have no substance, the Suis and the Solanas of the world. But funds, VCs and funds aren't all evil. There are good VCs right out, but there are good funds out there. That are funds out there that are ethical, that are hands-on, and that respect what you do and that will help you, will boost you instead of trying to feed on you and essentially dump you. It's just a matter of understanding the landscape, Yeah, we would, and we are actively speaking to funds and VCs. We are very selective about who we invite and who we want to take investment from, because of just that. We don't want any predatory VCs, any predatory funds in the project. We're very selective. We need to know that if we are accepting money from somebody, these people understand what their money is going into and understand our expectations of not being a source of pumping and dumping and being a source of them investing into something that's so paradigm shifting that is, it's like investing in an Amazon back in 1999 or something, And if they understand that, then we would welcome those funds. In fact, we haven't signed any paperwork or anything like that, but we've actually been getting quite a lot of help from Mike Arrington, just guidance. And Arrington has got his own fund, Arrington Capital. In fact, they've actually been involved in several pretty large deals. They created the fund for Moonbeam, the Moonbeam Network. They created the Algorand Fund. They created, right now, actually, Arrington Capital and a few other partners won the bankruptcy filing for Celsius. So there's a group called Fahrenheit, and Fahrenheit essentially is going to be accommodating and kind of making it right for Celsius holders or Celsius customers. And if you look at what they're doing, you'll see they're very ethical. They're very much on the side of the customer and the user. And these are the type of people that you want to work with, would Ergo follow suit? Ergo is an open ecosystem. Take as much control of it as you want, as Alex says. So Ergo doesn't have to follow suit. Projects on Ergo can decide for themselves if this is a good business decision or not. And this is actually what we're trying to do. We're filling out some funds to see if they are the right fit for the ecosystem, and if they are, how can we bring them into the ecosystem and kind of give them an understanding of all the different great opportunities that are here, So, I believe other projects will follow suit as they should, because you need investors on many projects. And like I said, it's just a matter of making sure that you let the right people in. Did you have anything? Do you have anything to add on that, Joe? Just as far as bringing in VCs or funds into the ecosystem for investments?
Sure. I mean, on a very basic level, you're talking about signing contracts. Devil's in the details. Know what you're getting in bed with.
Exactly. It's not all VCs are inherently evil. So just make sure to make stupid business decisions. It's business. Read the contract. If the contract is good, then then go for it. It's actually kind of the same thing with getting paid off by like Polygon or something to build in Polygon. That's just a really stupid business decision and a stupid technical architecture decision to build in a chain just because they gave you money. We could probably go with what we've developed right now to like a Polygon or even Binance and get money from whatever whatever entity is the kingmaker in that ecosystem. I don't want that because I just don't like their tech. I don't think it can do what Ergo can do for the project. This is why we're staying with Ergo. This is why we're building on Ergo, because the architectural decision makes the most sense on Ergo, because the business makes the most sense on Ergo and what we're going to be using Ergo for. So it's all about business decisions, and it's all about making proper business decisions that are that you have your project's success in mind, and not just like who is the highest bidder and give you the most money, regardless of how shitty their tech is. Okay. There's a question here. How do I invest in Zengate? Do you sell shares or bonds? Well, actually, very shortly, we're going to be starting our promotion for the ErgoPad IDO that we're going to be doing with Marty. And we're also hoping to do that, cross-chain, so Ergo and Cardano, because these assets are going to be bridged by Rosen, so they're going to be usable on both networks, and there's going to be utility for them on both networks. That's starting really shortly. We will have more details in probably next week or so, and this is a way for you to be able to get on board and have a stake in what Zengate is doing. All right. Let's see. Okay. Well, that's a nice question to kind of leave off on, because we're talking about food. So Joe, hey, Kushti mentioned cook-off during Ergo Summit. What will you be cooking and posting pics of?
No, I'm gonna fire up the smoker. I'll probably get a nice roast. Let's see. I think the Ergo Summit is worthy of trying to find me a nice bone-in ribeye prime rib roast, and I'll probably smoke it with hickory for 6-7 hours, and then I'll get some good food going. It's a food weekend, as I was saying. So that's one nice thing about the Ergo Summit, is it's a food holiday in the Ergo ecosystem. So those of you out there that want to celebrate with some food, it's always great to share that. Yeah. From the Japan side, we're going to be barbecuing as well. We're going to be doing, more Japanesey barbecue, which is just, harami, which is basically just pieces of steak, and some chicken potentially. I got a Weber grill, so it, makes some beautiful, beautiful barbecue. Something about the shape of that thing, I've had many grills before, and I've never had things cook and be just so delicious coming off the grill as I've had off of Weber grill. Something about that dome design, I don't know. It's amazing. We got a question from Ergo Sigmanauts. So fire up the pizza oven, Joe. You're going to be firing up the pizza oven or what? Maybe this weekend. We'll see. I'll probably smoke some meat, to be honest.
Yeah. I wish, I kind of wish I kind of want to get a smoker out here, because, it's nice to have. And I do have the space. So, it's not all you hear about Japan is true, as far as, how everything is really small. In the suburbs, it's not. It's, my house, I got some, it's not a huge piece of land, but it's a piece of land. And, enough for you to kind of spread out a little bit. Ursa Minor says borscht. That is actually not a bad idea. And I just found beets, which are actually pretty difficult to get in Japan. For some reason, so there are Japanese beets that are basically they're called daikon, but those just don't, they're not the right kind. They're white. They don't have the same taste as borscht beets. And I just found a way to get beets, the beets going over here. So I might be cooking up some borscht in the old Soviet 4th of July tradition. So yeah, thanks for giving me that idea. And yeah, guys, so just before we leave you, so we have a link to Cube from none other than High Quality Ergo. This is what we were talking about. This is what Joe was talking about, and this is where this is what HQER was telling us, checking out some of these new features and stats. So, let me just get it up on the screen here. Yeah, guys. So here's the link. We're also, you can just ping them in on Telegram and get the link, but it's really easy. ergcube.com. I personally love it. I love this aggregate app. It's a great kind of summation of the ecosystem. It's kind of interesting because when I was just really, and myself and Sam actually, we're just kind of trying to figure out what products we can put out into the ecosystem. We were actually thinking of a similar product of this kind of like an aggregate ecosystem, just like ecosystem mall, right? And I don't know, I can't figure out a better way of articulating that because I'm still I come from the early internet days of internet malls. And I don't know, some of you guys might be old enough to remember those back in the 90s. That was like a thing, internet malls. Everybody wanted to be part of the internet mall, which is basically just like this aggregate website of these different local businesses and then separate web pages for their businesses. Of course, Cube is different. Cube is a lot more, well, I mean, it's whatever, 26, 7 years later. So we're a lot more advanced with technology right now, but the aggregate solution, the kind of the welcome hall of the ecosystem is great on this app. So highly recommend you guys check it out. And so I think we can leave it off for today. So definitely don't miss the summit. We're definitely going to be having a lot of fun there. Check out the videos. We're going to try to do one from Zengate. We're going to try to get it out to Andy as soon as possible. There's a chance we might not make it in time. Apologies. We might, put it out a little later on our channel and just kind of, give people a link. But because Andy is getting kind of overloaded right now with a lot of the content because there's just so much content coming in. Really looking forward to that. So we got any last words for everybody, for all the people watching, Joe?
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to tune in. Definitely, I'm going to be watching the summit because my mug's not going to be on a lot of the videos, and so it's a lot more interesting to watch, right? So I hope everybody.
Why is that? You should make just kind of like.
I show up, I make these videos, and then I let the natural ability of the brain to bury trauma just kick in and move on with life, right? So when it's Ergo content that I'm no part of, it's a pleasure for me to watch. So I'm excited. Yeah, totally. It will be really cool to watch. And so don't miss it, guys. All right. That's all the time we have for this week. And again, thanks for joining us. And next week, same time, same channel on YouTube and other platforms that we're now broadcasting to. So thanks a lot, everybody, and so long. Have a good one.